What innocent question that someone asked you crushed you a little. I work at a pretty boring convenience store and my neighbor down the street, young maybe 12 to 13-year-old kid was there. Good kid, usually hangs out there and talks to me. One day I was drawing cartoons for him by his request, and he said, "Wow, you're really good at making cartoons. Why don't you just quit this job and become an animator or make comic books?" Really bummed me out cause when I was his age that's all I wanted to do, but never was financially ever given even the slightest opportunity to go to school for something like that, and I'll never have the motivation for stuff like that, working 50+ hour weeks in retail hell just to barely make ends meet. Plus I remember being his age and thinking people could still do whatever they want when they grow up. Last week, my son's therapist asked me how I was holding up with everything that has been happening, and if I was remembering to take time to care for myself while I was working on helping my son. I imagine she was thinking I would just give her my usual, "Oh, I'm plugging along" response. Instead, I broke down and started sobbing and word vomited how bad shit is and how hard a time I'm having. And what a selfish piece of shit I feel like for having the audacity to feel so bad when my son is having such a hard time. Not my best moment. Back in 6th grade we were watching a film in my science class. Of course, my table took this opportunity to just chat. Don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but my friend finds out I didn't know the word vagina, knew the body part just not the term. I didn't get to explain that to the table because his immediate response was, "Didn't your dad ever have the talk with you?" I spent the rest of the period with my head down crying. My friend kind of freaked out. He demanded that no one at the table say anything sex related because he thought that maybe I was crying cause I wasn't mature enough to talk about that stuff yet. I told him later that night on RuneScape that my dad had been arrested about a year or two ago and that was the reason for my reaction. I'm 25 now and definition over it, lol, but at the time, that question destroyed me. It was good though he was the first person I talked about it with and it brought us closer at the time. How are you handling everything? My notary public, who also happens to be my boss's boss, while notarizing my divorce paperwork. Completing a divorce packet with no help from an attorney can be a real pain in the ass, but at least it kept me focused on the bureaucratic bullshit nonsense part of it, rather than the fact that my 9-year marriage was ending. Turned out that, as soon as someone asked me sincerely how I was doing, the answer was not at all well. I went back to my desk and had a panic attack. My recently divorced ex and I worked at the same place. Divorce was not my idea, but he'd found someone new, and I was heartbroken. He ended up quitting at her insistence. 6 months after the divorce was final, a coworker asked how ex-husband was doing, hadn't seen him since he quit, yada yada. Behind my back another coworker was trying to wave first coworker off. Spent the rest of the shift crying on and off. Apparently coworker #1 was oblivious and didn't know we'd divorced, just thought ex had quit. Rough night last night. Usually asked with a big smile. I was asked that all the time when I was younger because I had a really obvious tremor. Thing is, I did not drink or do drugs at all, and I had no idea what was wrong with me. I was eventually diagnosed with Graves' disease and treated for it, but I still have a bit of a tremor. I always wanted to study psychology in college, but my overbearing mother wouldn't have that, so I studied chemistry. In my last semester I took an abnormal psychology class just for fun, and I crushed it, ending with a 99% average. After the final, my professor took me outside the classroom and said, "Why didn't you major in psychology? You would have made a great psychologist." That really crushed my soul. I think about that day a lot. My senile and racist grandma once asked me, in front of the rest of my entire extended family, "Oh, I was digging up some old photos from that trip to Arizona and you were about this tall. You used to be so cute. What happened?" Like, damn, I'm sorry, I'm in the best physical and mental shape of my life right now, but okay, just make me laugh it off and call myself ugly in front of people I care about way more than you, why don't ya? I have a tattoo on my chest that's a song title of my favorite band. I had the tattoo artist do it in the font style of their logo. It's in a runic looking style font and says my own savior. The S in savior is kinda center of my chest. After about 3 years of having this tattoo now, someone at my new job last week cornered me asking what kind of S that is. Pretty much insinuating that it was some Nazi bolt S or something. I had to pull up a picture of the band logo to show it wasn't, but fuck, it still bothers me. I'm constantly hoping now that no one thinks I'm a Nazi asshole with this tattoo. When I was 13, my mom got a divorce from a man who I can only refer to as a step monster. I worked all summer to save up money since we didn't have a lot, and I was worried we wouldn't have enough to pay the bills. I ended up having a few dollars left over and wanted to buy my mom a gift, and she mentioned she needed a new watch for her birthday. I went to the jeweler and got a $100 gold Citizen Evo Drive watch. It was functional and it looked really nice. When I gave it to her, her first response was, "Thanks honey, did it come in silver?" I was crushed. Insult to injury, she started dating a guy around the same time and he bought her a crappy silver watch. She ended up wearing his over mine 18 years later, and it still hurts when I think about it. Specialist appointment, and they did the normal thing of checking contact details. They asked if the contact number and details for my wife were still correct. I started crying. My wife passed away this time 12 months ago. Surprising how much one simple question asked in total innocence can bring you to your knees. My loving girlfriend, I know backdoor brag, and I were watching a show that opens with a stoner dude playing video games. When his hard-working girlfriend pull up outside, he scrambles to pretend like he wasn't being a lazy slob. My girlfriend offhanded says, "Oh, man, just like us." About a year ago I had been out of work for 6 months while she had a steady job. For the record, I didn't get stoned and play video games. I was constantly applying for jobs and dealing with emotional fallout of having a dozen job interviews that fell through for various reasons. It was just an innocent comment about the girlfriend getting home. But like, damn. I went to get a haircut for my fiance's funeral. It was Friday. He had died on today. My stylist, all bubbly, said, "It's been a while. The last time I saw you, you were just about to move in with your boyfriend. How's it going?" The word stuck, and I kind of rasped it out. Honestly though, her reaction was so wonderful. She was behind me and just put her hands firmly on my shoulders and looked me in the eyes in the mirror. No shock, no stupid platitudes, just silent, genuine empathy. The rest of the haircut was pretty quiet, but she did everything so, like, lovingly, and didn't make a big deal out of it when I cried a little. I teach first grade and was talking about how I've been married for 5 years. One student asked, "How could you not have a baby by now?" Not wanting to explain multiple miscarriages and IVF to a classroom of 6-year-olds, I said, "Being around all of you makes my heart so full that I don't think I have room in my heart for a baby." They all smiled. I smiled too. I've learned from my experience to never ask couples if they want to have a family. Fucking hurts. My son undergoing chemo and radiation treatment for a bone marrow transplant. People, meaning well of course, would always ask, "How's your son doing?" I'd always have to fake a smile and give some shallow hopeful answer, "He's fine. He's a fighter," but deep inside the question crushed me every time. No, he was suffering. Teetered on the brink of life and death. He was not fine, and every time I heard that question I was reminded of it and had to swallow the pain. My son has since recovered, but it was a very tough time. I could never imagine getting cancer at such a young age. How are you this strong/brave/ do you stay so positive? I've stopped counting the amount of people, especially working at the hospital, I'd expect a bit more sensitivity from them, that have asked me that. Yes, I'm mid-20s, but it's not a choice that I'm staying strong. It's fucking survival. Every time someone asks me that, it feels like getting punched. You know how sometimes in Skyrim people just suddenly start asking you if you are sick, and it's kinda weird. especially since I always play a wood elf, so I don't know what you look sick means. I get that. People will randomly ask me if I'm okay. Never when I'm in my wheelchair either. Just at random with nothing I know of to prompt it. Like, I thought I was. Until now. Thank you for being concerned about my well-being, but why are you concerned? Or this girl offering pedicures at the mall who leaned down to talk to me with her hands on her knees and asked me if I wanted to feel pretty. Then told my boyfriend, who was pushing my wheelchair, that they even do pedicures for them.